As someone who's really never been into any of the Hoyoverse games, ZZZ has genuinely chemically altered my brain. They made a game that's like Persona 5, Devil May Cry, and Kingdom Hearts, but at the same time the game feels completely new and original. It feels like its own game. And they managed to fix every problem I've had with any of the recent games that come out, and they did it with a mobile gacha game. Now, I don't think I'm alone when I say video games have been getting very stale and repetitive recently. It's felt as if you're not a shooter, then you probably won't get greenlit by a studio to be made, and your idea will get thrown away. And if you do happen to get greenlit, then you're probably just a battle royale or an indie game, or just some poorly underdeveloped anime game like we've been getting recently. So when Zen-less Zone Zero finally came out, it genuinely shocked me that Hoyoverse made the choice to develop a game with like none of these concepts. They developed a game with a storytelling style similar to Persona 5 and combat that feels distantly related to the Square Enix title. And like when I tell you I've had as much if not more fun playing this game's combat than I do in a game like Kingdom Hearts 3 or Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, I wouldn't be lying to you. While I don't think they created anything mind-blowing or revolutionary like the Square Enix titles, I also found myself deeply invested in the story they made. ZZZ genuinely makes me forget I'm playing a gacha game, so whenever I boot this game up on my PC, I find myself playing this game for hours, which is something I can't say for games of the same genre. Most of the time when I've played any of the games under the gacha genre, the story usually takes a backseat to the summoning and gameplay, and I usually find myself just skipping the story whenever I play a game like Genshin and definitely any of the countless anime gacha games. That's not a knock to the story at all, it's just more of the way that they present the story to you. I'm of the belief that the way you start and end a story determines how good the in-between portions are, so when you present a mobile gacha game to me in the first 30 minutes or so, it's just a PNG floating around with no voice acting and stiff or turn-based combat, and my home menu which is cluttered with icons, it makes me lose interest in anything else besides the fancy summon animations and the adrenaline rush I get from getting my favorite character. So when you present a game to me with the most polished 3D combat I've seen in a while, with a graphic novel storytelling with full voice acting pretty much all the way through the whole game, see, now you got my attention. Games like Genshin and Wuthering Waves suffer from their storytelling in my opinion. Most interactions between characters are just two models staring at each other in an open setting. And while you can make the argument that ZZZ having 2.5D sprites doing the same thing isn't much better, personally, showing me sprites with emotion and reactions while also letting me choose the dialogue is not only way easier on my eyes, but also just way more entertaining. The story follows two siblings who run an illegal proxy business, and basically what this means is they act as a guide for people who want to go inside of these war zones called a hollow without permission from the actual government. The problem with being inside of these hollows is that over time it'll make you go insane and turn into a monster called an ethereal. So naturally it's been banned for normal people to go inside these areas, but some people are born with a high ether affinity, which basically means that they can exist inside of these areas without going apeshit. So as a proxy, you get hired by people to guide them through these hollows and help them with commissions inside of them. Whether it just be a general mission to go get something while inside the hollow or record data from inside the hollow, you help these people get in and get out the hollow. And that's a general plot of what's going on. And with the main character being the proxy, the main character isn't actually playable. Which I think is super cool that the main character isn't playable, because the main thing that breaks immersion for me in a lot of games is my person not looking how it looks in the cutscene. What I mean by that is something like Sora having a different keyblade in a cutscene than what I'm supposed to have. Or talking to an NPC in Genshin and my character switches to the Traveler to fit what's currently going on. It's not a big deal per se, but it's nice having my main character fit what's going on at all times. Hoyoverse seems to actually agree with me on this point, because while playing through the main storyline, they actually lock your party to whoever the main cast is of the current story arc. This choice makes the story feel way more interesting to me, because unlocking characters for me to play to serve the story makes me forget I'm playing a gacha game. Hoyoverse lets you enjoy these characters' gameplay and dialogue for a whole story arc before locking them again, instead of having them be in a 60-second playtest to try to get you just to spend money and unlock these characters. This makes characters who I genuinely wouldn't have cared about at all actually interesting to me. This was especially apparent to me in the second act of the game when you play as a construction crew. There's two characters named Grace and Koeda who I didn't care for until this part of the game. And sure, I thought their gameplay was cool, but I had no attachment to these characters, which I feel is a big drawback to having a non-big IP gacha game. Which is why you'll see a lot of games either lean into fan service or super cute characters. It's just way easier to sell me an Ultra Art Super Saiyan Goku than a random anime boy with a big stick. And I think Hoyoverse knows this, because not only do they give each of their S-Rank characters their own side story called Agent Stories, They also put a lot of effort into each of the main character of the arc's backstory and actions. And while I don't think the story itself is too crazy, the way that they present the story of these people to you is amazing. They take full advantage of the graphic novel storytelling art style that the game uses. There's a story segment later on in the game, and I'll leave a timestamp below if you don't want to get spoiled, but during this part of the story, Koeda has to deal with her father abandoning her at a young age and leaving her all alone, while he runs away with a large portion of his company's money. And I'm going to show the clip because I think it's amazing how the graphic novel presentation for a key character moment works so well.
I can't even remember how long it's been since I heard his name. Horse Belobog. Belobog Industries, previous president, and my father.
Koeda, look! This is what Daddy told you about. Belobog's first independently developed smart construction machine.
This is the prototype you were talking about? When will you finish building it?
Well, that'll take a whole lot of money. Money Daddy's company just doesn't have right now. Plus, we lack the production to build such powerful machinery. But don't worry. One day, my little girl will be riding in the machine her old man built. You know, it's not just any machine. It's got a heart your dad made in it. It'll be able to understand your commands and endure all the Hollow's dangers.
Wow!
Here, Koeda, give it a name. When you call out that name, it'll accomplish whatever you need it to.
Dad? Dad! You promised to play with me today!
Koeda, Daddy's busy right now. Bidding on the new project, the prototype's manufacturing fee, then there's the final review at Pioneer's Memorial Plaza. 1 minute, I'll be done soon. Daddy promises.
Liar.
What?
Mr. Belobog, I'm sure you understand this will be better for all of us.
Daddy.
You want me to pretend like nothing happened? Are you kidding me? Just come out with it. What exactly is in there? Hello? Hello? Say something!
Dad? It's so late. Where are you going? I don't want to be home alone. I want to go with you.
Come on, Koeda, stop it. There's an emergency. I have to go now. Just stay at home and be good. Daddy will be back in no time. I promise.
Just like that, he vanished. That liar.
President? President?
Ben, you were saying something?
Yes, the commission is completed. Ms. Proxy came to collect their bamboo.
The graphic novel art style presentation is just perfect. From the color choices to the music that they played, it all just shows that these memories to her meant a lot and that they were warm to her in the beginning. But as the cutscene goes on, you'll see that the colors shift to like a sunset setting color, and it gets darker in tone as she calls her father a liar because he just doesn't make the time for her, and he always makes promises that he doesn't keep. But towards the end of the cutscene, you'll see that the colors switch to an even darker color palette, and the time is now nighttime, showing that this is the darkest part of her life and this means a lot to her. And while I don't think these observations are anything too crazy to point out, what I do want to point out is that telling a story like this just fits better than any cutscene would have, in my opinion, and having the story broken up into panels just lets you digest everything at your own pace, and I think it's so important for something like that, for a key character moment, for a key character story arc. And while I think this point is very elementary, I do think it helps get my point across. While I understand most people can care less for a story in their video games, one thing that will always make or break a game is their gameplay. The gameplay loop in this game is super refreshing, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, but this game reminds me of Persona 5. The main menu is a videotape store named Random Play, but you can honestly just think of this as Persona's 5 Cafe. But instead of selling coffee, they're selling videotapes. There's also shops outside of the video store with NPCs that have their own stories and side quests. There's even an arcade full of minigames that if you score high enough, they'll give you summon tokens. And for those who just want that hardcore action RPG style of gameplay, there's a game mode called Zen-less Zone Zero, which is this game's version of Mementos. The game is very easy on free-to-play players, so if you're worried about the gacha portion of this game, Hoyoverse tends to just hand out their summon currency for anything you do in this game. While I haven't got to that part of the game yet, there's even social links again, like Persona, but granted, you have to have these characters unlocked to start these social links. Half of this game's main gameplay is split between an RPG style combat, and the other half is like a puzzle minigame. It's kind of hard to explain what this is like or what it's similar to, but the basic gist is that you control a robot bunny that we call a Bang Boo, and you use this Bang Boo to navigate through a grid of TVs and solve puzzles to move onward. These mazes can be either straightforward and have you fight bosses, or sometimes they're just fully puzzles. This gameplay choice makes missions feel less repetitive, especially later on. Once you get to Zen-less Zone Zero, it gets super interesting. While navigating in Zen-less Zone Zero, you start to gain insanity if you stay there for too long or you move too much, and building up insanity leads you to get a debuff. Debuffs make it harder for you to fight, but you can also talk to NPCs while in this maze, which either lets you buy buffs off of them or clear the debuffs you currently have. It also gets interesting later on when you interact with these NPCs and you have to start gambling with them for certain cards that either buff you or debuff you. They can also scam you and take money from you while inside of these mazes. With NPCs being a really big part of Zen-less Zone Zero, skipping their dialogue can actually be very harmful, so I advise you not to do that if you do enter this area. But the combat is where this game truly shines, because they created a fast-paced switching parry system, meaning that there's no block button in this game. So unless you have a tank whose ability is to block, you either have to take the full damage of the attack or dodge everything perfectly or perfectly hit a parry. Dodging works how it works in Bayonetta. Time slows down and you gain iframes, but you do have to time these dodges perfectly, so spamming the dodge button in a boss fight doesn't work, you'll just get hit. You'll also be dodging attacks from your blind spots while fighting, so you have to constantly watch every enemy on the map to not miss a dodge. But if you do get a dodge off, you'll be rewarded greatly. While in bullet time, you get the option to either counter or run away. Each character's counter is pretty much the same, with some doing a little bit more extra damage or adding a status effect, but each counter gives you a lot of meter gain. This meter is used for abilities, and each ability has its own elemental effect to it, causing the enemy to either be dazed, frozen, stunned, or burnt, so dodging and constantly refilling this meter is your #1 priority in a boss fight. Similar to Square's Final Fantasy games, each enemy has a stagger meter. Building up this meter by doing damage will cause the enemy to be dazed and increase the damage you do to them. And each boss has their own resistance and weaknesses, so having one character to carry you out through this whole game with high damage isn't really a thing. But the main mechanic that Hoyoverse pushes is switching. Since there's no block button, to parry an attack from a boss, you have to switch out to your next character in a rotation of 3, and they'll auto parry the damage and push back the boss, also letting you counter, like if you were to dodge. But you only have 6 switches before they go on cooldown. While you're mainly going to be switching to parry, you can also switch to escape combos or combo extend, or normally just to switch out to a better character. So most of the time you'll probably be using your switches just to switch out to whatever the S rank character is that Hoyoverse currently gives you, because Hoyoverse seems to not really care too much about locking characters behind summons this time. But like I mentioned earlier, during the story mode, especially during the second half, your party will always be locked to whomever the story is around at this time. So if you play through the story most of the time, you won't even get to pick who you play as. Overall, Hoyoverse has developed an amazing game, and I genuinely think they deserve a round of applause. This game is helping fill the void in my heart left by Sparking Zero while I wait for it to come out this October, and honestly, I see myself coming back to this game religiously if they keep having constant good updates, and seeing how they treat Genshin Impact and them announcing brand new characters, I think this game is going to last for a long time. Both characters that have been leaked look super good, and I'm going to be upset if I don't at least get one of the characters. But what do you think? Have you played this game yet? If you have, let me know what you think about it down below. Also, let me know what you think about this video style. This is my first time trying my hand at a video essay style video. So if you do like content like this, please let me know down below or hit the like button. It does help greatly. I also stream this game a lot on Twitch recently, whenever I just have free time. So if that's something you are interested in watching, click the link down below. It is in the description. It'll be nice just to see you say hi. So I am looking forward to that if you do decide to stop by. But with that being said, I'm gonna head out. Enjoy your day, guys, and peace.